Today's video is a must-watch for anybody that is currently on their weight loss journey. We're talking to my incredible client, Amber, who went through back-to-back pregnancies and felt like all the odds were against her during her weight loss journey. She's an open book and she's sharing exactly how she was able to lose 20 pounds right off the bat by starting our work together. So if you ever feel like my body is broken, it's been through too much, I don't know if I can do this, let's talk to the woman who went from this to starting our work together at this, and 6 weeks later, looking like this. By watching today's interview with Amber, you're going to be convinced that, okay, maybe this can work for me too. Hello, my honeys, it's Emmie. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Emmie. I'm a nutritionist and the creator of the Slim on Starch program, where you work with me as well as a mindset coach and a nutrition coach to lose weight on a plant-based diet. If you want to work with me, you can go to healthyemmie.org or just click the link in the down bar. And a quick shout out to Amber's coaches. Along with myself, Amber also worked with nutrition coach Kate and mindset coach Natalie to help her reach her goals over our 6 weeks together. The four of us made a great team, and you'll see why in this interview. Great, Amber. So why don't we start with having you give us a snapshot, and we'll start with why you joined the program, and then we'll talk about what you achieved, and then we will get into the thick of it. So let's start with why you ended up joining the program.
I never really struggled with weight basically my whole life. I was pretty active. I ate decently well. I was pretty health conscious from a very early age. So that helped me a lot. And it wasn't until after I had my first baby, he's just turned 2 a few weeks ago. So just to give you an idea, I obviously gained around like 45 pounds in that pregnancy. So I was always like a little worried that was I not going to be able to lose the weight fast. But within the first 3 weeks, I dropped 15 pounds pretty fast. And then after that, I just started losing a bunch of weight. So after my first baby, I didn't really have trouble losing weight. And then I got pregnant again when I was almost to my goal weight. And I kind of went into that second pregnancy with the mentality of, okay, I lost a lot of weight after my first pregnancy. So I went into it just kind of have a mindset of I can eat whatever I want. I'm not going to exercise. So I didn't exercise for a good 6 months straight. I was basically eating whatever I wanted. And I think a lot of it was stress eating just because there was a lot of changes going on in our lives at the time. Even though it was a lot of good changes, it was still stress that was added on. So I gained around 50 pounds in that pregnancy. And then after I had my second baby, he's 8 months now to give you, or actually he just turned 9 months. So give you an idea. I was like, okay, I'm just going to wait for the weight to fall off of me. And it was not falling off. And I actually started gaining weight. And that's kind of where I was at that point. And then I ended up finding you on Instagram, and I saw that your program said Slim on Starch. And I was like, I love starches. And I've never heard of any program that says of going slim or, losing weight. So that really interested me. And I was 4 months postpartum at the time. And I told my husband about it, and he said, okay, well, it's up to you if you want to join. But something was telling me just to give my body a little bit more time. And then I it was 6 months, wasn't losing weight. I was gaining weight, and went to go get some labs done. Nothing was wrong. My thyroid was great. My hormones were great too. Then I went to my primary care doctor, and I was assuming that he was going to, put me on some sort of diet or something. And he ended up prescribing me a stimulant. And he said, oh yeah, you'll lose all this weight in, a good month or two, and, you'll be back to normal. And I walked out of that appointment feeling very discouraged, and it wasn't what I was expecting for him to say. I thought as a doctor, he would come in and say, okay, try meditation and try working out so many times a week and try this diet. But I came out very discouraged, and I felt like I was at a loss. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm never going to lose weight again. And that's when I took the plunge with you, and it's the best decision I ever made for me and my family. So where I'm at now.
So why don't you show off a little bit about what has happened over the course of just 6 weeks?
Yeah. So in total, I've lost 19 pounds in a little over 6 weeks, which is, I'm still in shock. I still look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, did that really happen? Because it feels like it was just yesterday that I started the program. And on top of that, I always struggle with anxiety, generalized anxiety. And it was literally from first few days in, I felt a lot calmer, and my anxiety has it's still there because I still struggle with it, but it's definitely calmed down a lot. I don't know if it was a result of me eating such nutritious foods on top of me getting better sleep. I think it was kind of like a cascade of things, but that was something I saw that, that improved. And then I was getting better quality sleep from day one. I started sleeping like a good deeper sleep and just better quality sleep. And then my energy was steady. I didn't have any dips during the day. I worked 12 hours as a nurse. And so those 12 hours can be very daunting on my body. But I noticed that as my 12-hour shifts went on, my energy was steady and I felt good. I just felt good overall. So on top of me losing the weight, I think all this other stuff just came along with it.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited for you. And I can't believe it's only been 6 weeks. That's the craziest part, is I feel like we just met and here you are.
Right. It's crazy. And I think that's the thing. Postpartum, I know postpartum weight loss may be different when compared to other people trying to lose weight. And I just felt like though, and I think a lot of people feel this way, it was just weight that I know I didn't have good eating habits. I know I wasn't exercising at all during my pregnancy, but I felt like it was weight that was just ready to be released. It was like, okay, do something to help me be released from my body or something. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think it ended up working out for sure, obviously. And so obviously I have more weight to lose, but I have such a great foundation now that I feel like I can go into it with confidence and I just know what I'm doing now. I'm not hopeless like I was before.
And I know that we have the goal that this is not going to be your last interview with me, although it is your first. We're hoping that we're going to have another one coming up.
And that's what's going to keep me motivated for sure.
So let's dig in. We got a very brief bird's eye view, but what I really adore about you, Amber, is that you're such an open book and you love to help. You're a nurse. So you want to be able to share your story to help people because that's who you are at your core. So let's start by digging into what life looked like beforehand. I know that you didn't struggle with your weight until you got pregnant. So how was that for you emotionally to all of a sudden deal with something that you went, 2+ decades never having to think about?
That was a biggie for me. So the way I actually had a friend over last night and I was describing it to her and it didn't really click for me until last night. So, pregnancy is obviously a beautiful thing. You get to carry this beautiful baby. And then afterwards you see the reward, of going through the 9 months of pregnancy. And for both of my babies, and I'm going to say more so my second one, I didn't see, the little back fat that was forming on my back. I didn't see my thighs getting bigger. All I saw was this beautiful big bump in front of me. And I saw this baby and I was like, this is amazing. Look at what my body's doing. And then after I had my baby and then the postpartum pain, came in, it was one day, I think it was like 5 or 6 days postpartum. I looked at myself in the mirror and that's when I started noticing, oh my gosh, look how much weight I gained. And it wasn't that I wasn't proud of what my body did. Of course I was, but now it's like the shell. I'm not holding this baby anymore. It's just a shell now, right? Yes, it's my body. I should be proud of what it did. And I was, but I still had every right to feel, not confident. I felt obviously like I felt heavy and I never felt that way before. When I was pregnant, it felt like, okay, I have a purpose for gaining this weight because nutritionally I'm giving all the good things to my baby. But afterwards it's like, okay, well, what's the purpose of me having all this weight on me if I'm not nutritionally giving it to somebody else anymore? And I had stopped breastfeeding and pumping like a month after. So it was a lot for me because I never struggled with weight. And at that time I thought, okay, well, I'll just start losing the weight. And when I didn't start losing, I started gaining. I can definitely tell you, to be completely open, I was crying probably like every other day, trying to keep an open mind, trying to stay positive. I had some people telling me, oh, it's okay, just give it time. And what your body did was amazing. And then other people were like, it just couldn't really say much of anything because they never really been in my position. So I wasn't really getting much of not the support. I think I always got support, but no one really knew how it was to be in my position. So I was looking for like an outlet and I think I started more and emotionally eat more. And I started spiraling, to be honest with you. And that's what scared me. And when people said, just wait, it'll fall off. The one thing that you will find out about me as we get to know each other more is I'm very impatient. I want to reach a goal in a certain amount of time. I'm just very driven. And I didn't want to settle for, okay, the weight will just fall off, because at that moment in time, I wasn't being the best mother. I wasn't being the best wife. I wasn't being the best version of myself. And I thought something needs to change. And that's, when I took the plunge with you. And like I said, it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, but it was a lot emotionally on me because I never struggled with that before.
Such an insightful point here, Amber, which is that postpartum is a time where you get a lot of comfort for the position that you're in. And people say, trust me, I've been there. It's really hard. We support you. But it looks like you weren't looking to get comfort. You wanted to get out of that place you were in. You didn't want a hug while you you were sitting there, you wanted somebody to help pull you out so that it could look different. And it reminds me of the clients that I talk to who have such loving families that say, I love you at any size. You look great. I love you for you. And it's not so much about that. It's about how you feel and what you want to be like instead.
Absolutely. And, you've met my husband over FaceTime and everything. And has definitely been such a big support in all of this. And before going into the program, I would tell him, okay, you need to keep me accountable. Like, if you see I'm reaching for that donut over here, tell me, do you really have to read? And he was like, are you sure you want me to tell you that? Because I will. And when he would do it, I would get mad at him. And he was like, but you want me to keep you accountable. And I'm trying to do this for you. And it was kind of like, I was just kind of riding the fence at some points. And then I realized I was starting to cry almost like every other day. That's when I realized, like you said, I needed someone to pull me out of where I was because I was tired of feeling the way I was feeling. And yes, I was at that time around 7 months postpartum. But I know, even though, yes, I had my babies, but now I was at a point where like, okay, now I gave my world to these babies. Now I want to put myself first at this moment in time so I can be a better mother, a better wife, a better version of myself. And I definitely was not the best I could be at that point.
You two have such a beautiful relationship. When I met the two of you and I asked your husband, is there anything that I need to know about your wife? And he said, I so believe in her and I know that she can do this. When she sets her mind to something, she does it. And you really proved him right.
Yes, I'm on one end, I can be very stubborn, but it has definitely helped me a lot in different areas of my life. And he was totally right. He knows me sometimes better than I know myself.
Hey, if you are liking this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. It really supports my channel. So before we met, you gave it a shot at some other ways to lose weight. Do you want to talk about those?
Yes. So like I said, I didn't really struggle with weight at all before I had my first baby, though when I was at a really good weight in college, I was, working out 4 times a week, no stress in the world. My classes were super easy and I cut out a lot of things and like fried food stuff here and there, but I was active. My metabolism was a lot different too. So that's where I was before. And then after I had my first baby, like I said, I lost 15 pounds pretty fast, but obviously it was a lot of like water weight and like just a lot of fluids that were being released from my body. And then I started losing a little bit at a time, but I wanted to speed it up. So I did try carb cycling. My energy was very low. I love to work out. So I felt like I was hitting like a roadblock with, I want to work out, but I don't have enough energy to. And so it turned into my workouts weren't enjoyable anymore. And the biggest thing was that it wasn't sustainable. My parents were like, are you going to keep doing this for like, the rest of your life? I was like, oh, no. This is just to like an ends or like a means to an ends type of thing. Right. And yes, I reached my goal and then that's when I got pregnant again. So obviously I stopped, but it was the carb cycling that I did. That was the major thing I did after my first pregnancy. Yeah.
And then moving into SOS, a plant-based lifestyle, you said, I never thought that I would do this. I would go plant-based. So can you talk about the emotions that came over as you headed into this program?
Yes. So I think the first thing I will say is that my parents, I grew up in a Hispanic household. So we ate a lot of meat and dairy and all great foods, all delicious foods. But whenever a friend or a family member would say, oh, I'm going to go vegan or become a vegetarian, it was almost looked down upon. A lot of people questioned it because it wasn't part of our culture. And I grew up with that. So even me, when I was in my early 20s, I went into college and I heard about some friends going vegan or going into that vegetarian diet. I was like, oh gosh, no, I could never do that because I grew up on meat and dairy. That's that's what a lot of people grow up on. Right. And so I thought I would never do this. And it's not that I never thought I would never do it, but I thought I couldn't do it because I'm just so used to all of the foods I was used to prior. So I think there's like a stigma about being on a vegan or going plant-based. There's definitely a stigma. I think it's definitely cultural. And I think I had both of those things fighting against me. And so when I told my parents, my dad, he's always supported me in whatever I've done, but my mom is always the one that questions me. So definitely a good balance. my dad was like, if it's going to make you happy and as long as you're healthy, perfect, I'll support you. And then my mom had a lot of questions for me, like, are you going to get enough vitamin intake, enough protein, all this different stuff, right? And I said, yes, mom. And I kind of went into a lot of detail about how it works. And she looked at me like, oh, wow, I didn't know all this. And actually just a few months before though, my dad, he went to the doctor and the doctor said, don't eat any potatoes, no fruit, stay away from all that. And then when I told him that, I was like, Dad, I'm going to start eating a lot of fruits and a lot of potatoes, all the stuff that your doctor said you shouldn't eat. He looked at me like, really? And so it's been really nice being able to kind of educate them on the plant-based lifestyle, because I think it's definitely, at least for my dad more so, it's definitely turning his head to the idea of going plant-based now. But going back to your question, I think it was just a lot of cultural stigmas. And then emotionally, I thought, obviously I was in a rock and a hard place and I thought I would never lose weight, but I think I was so motivated that I was like, I'm just going to try it out because what's the worst that could happen, right? And now being done with my 6 weeks and now continuing on with it, it's actually the best thing I could have ever done for myself because I'm getting everything I need, both nutritionally and I'm loving the foods at the same time, which asked me like 2 months ago if I would ever go plant-based. I'm like, no, that's not for me. I am definitely a believer now.
And you never know until you try. And I always tell clients,
right,
feel nervous about starting something new. We can always go back to what you were doing beforehand. That's not going anywhere. The meat and the dairy is not going anywhere, but let's try this out and just see how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the thing. I definitely wasn't 100% most of the time. I would say like maybe on average, I was like 98%. And I still was able to, enjoy a little cheese block here and there just because my body was craving that at the time. But I still had amazing results. And my mindset coach, she made a good point because I think it was week 4 that I struggled with, why am I getting these cravings still? I thought they would be gone by this point. Right. And she said, well, you got to understand, you've been eating this other way for 26 plus years. And now it's like you want your body to switch off all the cravings and just crave strictly SOS. No, that's not going to happen. It's going to definitely take time. And so that's when I started to give myself grace with the whole process. And then that's when I started to enjoy it a lot better. I didn't feel like I was fighting it anymore. And I didn't feel like I said, I'm very impatient. So I was like, this needs to be gone by this point. But once I just let everything go, that's when I started seeing a lot of the weight loss happen too.
The craving is not your responsibility. The reaction to your craving is.
Right.
So the craving comes, that's part of human nature. How you react to it, that's where the big change is made.
Definitely.
So you saw results pretty quickly. Let's talk about that first week.
Yeah, that first week, I don't know the exact number, and you probably have it there for me maybe, but I lost like 4 pounds. Okay. Yeah. 4 pounds that first week. And I know in my head, I was like, okay, it's probably a lot of water weight because I wasn't intaking all the salts anymore that I was taking in before. And then that second week, I think I dropped like 3 or 4 more pounds. And I was like, okay, I feel like I'm losing weight a little bit too fast. And I think it was our third week when I got on a call, like a group call with you. And my concern was, am I losing weight too fast? Like this is okay. I went from not being able to lose weight to gaining weight to all of a sudden, first 2 weeks on this program, I've already lost 7 to 8 pounds. Okay, this is working, but is it working a little bit too good? And then I know you told me about, as long as I'm, not losing any hair, my energy's there, all that stuff, not feeling anxious. And I was feeling great. So I said, okay, this is what my body needed. And then from there on out, started losing more and more. And yes, it slowed down, but I think it was definitely the kickstart I needed. And now it's just been falling off like just very, very flawlessly. So yeah.
I know too, you love to work out. And that was something you were a little bit nervous about. Am I still going to have energy for my workouts?
Right. And I think that kind of goes back to the carb cycling. I didn't have a really good experience with that sort of diet. Then, like I said, the stigma that goes back to being on a plant-based diet, I thought, okay, I'm not going to have the energy from just eating these foods. And then I went because I'm a big Peloton biker. I love getting on the Peloton. And I think it was like the 3rd or 4th week, I broke like 2 records on my bike and I had more energy than I ever thought I could ever have. And it was just blowing my mind. And so that's when my husband actually, cause he said, okay, yeah, I'll eat some of the same foods. That's when cause he loves to work out as well. He was like, maybe I should maybe go start like 100% SOS. And I said, do it, because obviously you're seeing, the benefits I'm having. And yes, he doesn't need to lose weight, but he said that he definitely feels like he needs more energy and wants to have that better quality sleep. And so, yeah, my workouts were so much better, which is crazy to me. And then I think there was one point where I felt on some workouts, I felt a little weak, especially my legs. So I just made sure I ate veggies right after or right before my workout that were higher in protein. And I felt fine. And then I ate more carbs before my workout too. And that helped. So I think making adjustments on how much to eat before and after a workout was what I had to do. But then once I made those adjustments, it was great. Yeah.
And how has your husband's health transformed?
So at this point, like I said, it was like week 4 that he was like, maybe I should start doing this. I think the stigma from his point of view has broken, because he's always supported me, but I think in the back of his mind, he was like, oh, I could never do this either. But I think now it's more mental for him. I think he's definitely highly considering it on top of my father. And I thought out of those 2 men in my life, I thought they would never do something like this, but they're highly considering it. Health wise, my husband is like, he's always been the type of just eating for nutrition, not eating as a reward. He doesn't emotionally eat. So he's never had that problem. That's just the way he is, which he's like 1 in a million, because I feel like it's rare to find people like that. But I think it's more so he's wanting to lose just some extra fat around his belly and wanting more energy for his workouts. I think for him right now, it's just more mental, because he hasn't fully taken like that plunge yet, but he definitely has been eating the foods I've been eating on top of it. So it's kind of like, what's the word? He's just kind of falling into it since I'm doing it a little bit, but not 100% yet.
Collateral benefit.
Yeah, there you go.
So let's talk about your achievements. You showed off a little bit at the beginning, but I really want to dive in. We know that you lost nearly 20 pounds. You also were talking about how you've gained a lot of confidence that you know how to fuel your body. You know how to lose weight. You feel in control of that now.
Yes. Like we talked about before, I never had to think about stuff like this before, because I never struggled with weight. And then postpartum hit me hard after my second baby, and my confidence was at an all-time low, because I first off felt heavy physically. My back was always hurting because of the extra weight that I had. And in turn, it just spiraled into me not being in the best moods. And so I started taking it out on, my husband, or I wouldn't be in the best moods, and I wouldn't be as focused on my babies and stuff like that. And so after starting this, I realized that you have to put yourself first for everything else to kind of fall into place. Because after I started losing weight and my back pains slowly started going away, my anxiety calmed down, sleeping better, I realized that, oh, wow, I'm a lot more emotionally regulated now. I'm more focused on my children. I'm more available. I think it was just 10 pounds in, just 10 pounds made a difference. Right. And then that's when I started realizing, okay, this is working. And then I think going into it too, I thought, oh, this is going to be hard. The whole food prepping. I don't know if I can do this, but it's honestly the easiest thing I've ever done. It's so easy. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. It's such an easy lifestyle to live. Food prepping was easy. Me and my husband would take a few hours on Sunday just to food prep everything, had everything done for the week. So I just grabbed something out of the refrigerator, warm it up. And on top of that, it's not like it's like a freezer meal, something that you get from like the store, that's high in calories and all this stuff and doesn't have a lot of nutrients. It's good. It's nutrient dense foods that is easy to make and prepare and take in. So yeah, my confidence has definitely improved. On top of that, like you said, I feel just so much more in control of everything.
Yeah. Another thing that we saw increase tremendously was your self-awareness about your emotional eating.
Yes. And I think I kind of touched on that at the beginning. I never really emotionally ate until I had my second baby. Give you some context. I had gotten pregnant with my first, was last semester of nursing school. So I had nursing school. And so I got pregnant, went to night shift, started a new job, moved into an apartment with my husband. Then we had our first, and then started losing weight. We're planning for a wedding. When I started losing that weight, boom, I got pregnant with my second. We got married. Then it was during COVID. We moved into a home, and all of these things, all good stuff, right? But there is such a thing as good stress. And even though it's all good, it can be stressful because you're trying to plan everything. And that's when I think it was maybe at the end of nursing school when I got pregnant. That's when I started to emotionally eat. And then it just took a big spiral when I got pregnant with my second, because I had the mindset of, oh, I lost all this weight after my first. I'll just eat whatever I want. I'll just eat when I'm feeling stressed and whatnot. And then so going into the program, I had to really regulate my emotions. And when I started feeling stressed, I would look at that donut in the break room at work and be like, oh, that looks so good. But you know what? I prepared and I brought strawberries or an apple or an extra meal, an SOS meal, and I would grab that. And what I realized was that even though that emotion or stress that I was feeling was just in that moment. So yeah, I could have grabbed that donut, and it would have tasted good for a minute or two, but then afterwards I would have still felt stressed, and it didn't serve my body the way I thought it would. While with grabbing strawberries and an apple, nutritionally, I'm getting what I needed. And at the same time, I actually felt better because I was giving my body good stuff. I think that was the real kicker for me. I didn't realize how much I was emotionally eating before the program. And then having my mindset coach really put things into perspective for me too. That was a huge help for sure.
Your self-awareness just on all levels increased. I know that you have a pattern that you go through now when you hit a craving. Do you want to talk about that thought pattern you go through?
Yeah. So I get a craving. Now I ask myself these 3 questions. I really take like a minute just to start deep breathing and ask myself these questions, because I'm like, I know I'm having these cravings for a reason. The first question is dehydrated. So I'll grab my water bottle and I have it right here. I carry this with me everywhere, and it's a big help. I drink a bunch of water and a few minutes later, I'm still getting the craving. I'm like, okay, am I tired? I had a long week, or maybe I didn't get too much sleep the night before, because the cravings usually hit at nighttime for me. I'll be like, maybe I need to go to bed and just sleep it off. Or if I know I start listening to my hunger cues, which was another thing that we learned about in the program, which was huge for me, is the hunger cues, because you could be getting a craving but have no hunger cues at all. So most likely I was dehydrated or needed some sleep. But if I'm getting the craving and I have hunger cues, I just pull out another SOS meal or get a fruit. And that's how I do it with that. And then at work, the cravings really hit too at work, because they always have all sorts of treats in there and tacos from, the families or whoever brings in the food. So I've learned to really prepare my meals for work, because if not, then I would just start reaching for things. So I think preparing food really helped me during this process as well. The cravings are, like you said, they're always going to be there, but it's how you react to them.
Yeah. And you're prepared. You're prepared with the food itself, and the thought process that you always go through.
Yep. Yeah.
So I always say, one of the biggest goal that we have after completing the program is just to keep up with the habits that you've built over the past 6 weeks. So, I never want to pressure somebody to keep making another goal, keeping this is a goal in and of itself. But do you want to talk about moving forward after completing the 6 weeks, where your focus is?
So I think the biggest thing, and this just kind of came on itself. I didn't really consciously think about this, but the word that keeps coming up in my head is grace, giving myself grace, and staying patient. Like I said, I've always been very impatient. When I set a goal, it's like I want to reach it as soon as possible. But what I've learned with any sort of weight loss journey, slow and steady wins the race. And that's something that you have preached. Slow and steady wins the race. And I remember, I think that was one of the first quotes that I saw in the SOS program as I was going through it. And I remember thinking to myself, "Ooh, Amber, you're going to learn a lot from this, aren't you?" Because I'm not slow and steady. I'm like, oh, I need to get there as fast as I can. So after finishing these 6 weeks, I just told myself, slow and steady wins the race, and giving myself grace and not rewarding myself, but just being proud of what I've accomplished so far. And now going forward, my goal is, on top of that, is by midsummer 2022, I do want to lose the extra 35 pounds that I want to lose. And I think that gives myself enough time to enjoy the process, but not get burnt out, because I think there was a time where I was going a little too fast and I was maybe burning out. And I don't want to do that, because I don't want to rebound and start, gaining weight back or anything. It's really what you make of it. That's a big goal for me, is to lose all my weight by midsummer of next year.
What advice would you give to somebody who's hearing this and thinking, wow, she's speaking to me?
Tell you is that there's never going to be a perfect time to start this. There's never going to be a perfect time. The first week I started SOS, my oldest one got sick and it was a rough week. The second week, my second boy got sick. And then the fifth and sixth week, me and my husband got sick from the flu. And then we had travel that we were doing, which we already had planned, but it was stressful on top of all of that. And then the thing is, your life is always going to be busy. It's just taking that plunge when you feel like it's necessary, and there's never going to be a perfect time. So what I will, on top of that, to just conclude that, is that you need to start putting yourself first, because I promise you, once you do that, everything else will fall into place and you definitely will not regret it, because I definitely did not.
So beautifully said, Amber. And I'm really looking forward to our next check-in where we see what you've achieved. Anything else that you want to say?
I just want to tell you, thank you, Emmie, for everything. And I want to thank my nutrition coach and my mindset coach, because if it wasn't for y'all three, and I know y'all will probably respond back with, oh, well, you put in a lot of the work, but giving this resource to people, I think, is so important. And educating people on this stuff is too, because in nursing school, I learned the complete opposite of nutrition from what you're teaching us. And so I think it's so important that this resource is available to everyone. And so I just want to thank you for putting your heart into what you do, because it's helping a lot of people and it's changing a lot of people's lives. That's basically all I got for you.
Thank you. If you made it to this point in the video, comment "Thank you, Amber," so that we can thank the lovely Amber for so bravely sharing her story with us today and inspiring many women. I love you, honeys, and I'll see you in my next video. Mwah.